Yeah.
Hi guys, and welcome everyone to this special fireside chat with Lokotech. I'm Ubaid from InvestorWeb, and I'm excited to be here today to guide what we hope will be an easygoing and insightful conversation. Today we are taking a little different approach. It's more kind of a t-shirt on the sofa kind of chat where CEO Ola and Ruben will walk us through from Lokotech. They will walk us through some updates on Lokotech in a more relaxed setting. My role is simply to step in with questions now and then to keep the flow going, but we are here to let the conversation evolve naturally. So if you have any questions, you can submit the questions to me or send it to me through os@investorweb.no or through the comment section on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or yeah. With that, I give the floor to Ruben and Ola.
Hey.
Hello. Thank you, Bart, for the introduction. I've been challenged both from clients and from shareholders. Why can't you show up in something else in a suit? And I figured this would be a good time to try it out at least.
Yeah, it's a bit of different image than we did last time. The last investor web we did when I was back in the office.
Sure, and there's a spot for you right here, Ruben. A little bit busy travel schedule.
Yeah.
Straight from the US, reporting in from Madrid, huh?
Yeah, right here from the home office at this time, and trying to make the best of it. Catching up on a bit of sleep from the jet lag. That's pretty much it.
We're all happy that we don't need to rent an office in Madrid for you alone. So congratulations on that one. So we had a lot of emails, coming our way, questions revolving around different topics, and we figured it'd be a good idea to have a small chat about it. There's no formal presentation. There's no graphs or anything. It's just the two of us. Primarily, the shareholders and other interested parties have questions about three topics. It revolves around the ASIC and the financing of the ASIC and how confident we are in the timeline of that project. It also revolves around Powerpool and the growth aspects of that venture. And the rest we were trying to put in a kind of like, what about everything else that we're doing? Separate line item for our sake now. So we're going to try and keep this conversation about those three topics. Start out with, I think, it's probably the most important one, the Scrypt ASIC, the transition to Powerpool, and the growth prospects we're working with there, and then catch up the rest in the end.
As this is going to be a casual conversation, if questions are appreciated, so we'll try and answer as many as well as possible.
Yeah, fire my way towards a bite. He'll shoot them in when they're due. So let's get on with it. I think the first question we want to really attend to is the technical, and then the financing part later on. Obviously, it's connected to each other, but anyways, we received a very positive noted question, and I want to start with that one. And it reads like this: in notice to the market dated the 5th of September, Lokotech claims technical success in your mission to design the world's most energy-efficient Scrypt hash chip, ASIC. Are you content with the process, and what are you particularly proud of having achieved? So we'll just refer to it as the ASIC in this conversation, Ruben. So it's not just a long name, Scrypt hash chip.
Sure.
But if I'm content with the process, yeah, sure. First of all, I want to address the last part. What am I proud to achieve? Well, first of all, we have beaten a $40 to $50 billion company on efficiency. It's the world's most efficient ASIC for Scrypt hashing, and that is a huge achievement, especially seeing that it's on an older, more mature production node. And I understand that the shareholders have been tired of waiting and seeing delays and what have you. But delivering a commercial chip design in 4 years at a very reasonable cost, and I know of competitors trying to create a cheaper, more easy ASIC for SHA, for instance, spending $30 million US, and they're getting nowhere. And we're doing this in 4 years, which is a lot shorter than the industry norm of fabless semiconductor firms, which is between 5 and 8. And in this context, I'm actually pretty proud of the timeline. And my chairman and our external board members in the Nordic Semiconductor will vouch for that, and they're particularly happy seeing that we've come so far in so short amount of time with so little money spent. Which leads us to the next question, I suppose, which is that there's been the timeline, yeah. There's been so many adjustments to the timeline, and like we're a bit confused. Can you reason around this? Can you explain? Sure. Without digging into the details of personal tragedy or the redesign and a little bit of misaligned engineering efforts on what ultimately became a redesign. I think it's important to remember that we're a small company, which means that everything that we do, every small delay, every little adjustment, very quickly will be encompassed by the MAR law and market abuse regulations, right? So we have to report it. Usually, when you have a chip design effort, it's either a small private company where there's no news, no one knows about any delays. You don't realize they even exist until the fact is there, or it's a large cap company that doesn't need to report everything, right? So there's a lot of delays and timelines shifting around, but no one really knows except the guys working on the project.
Right. Even if you have, for example, a very simple chip, for example, if you have a SHA-256 chip that is already running on a higher node, like for example the S9s for Bitmain, when they step it down to a lower node, that takes a very short time because you already have proven tech, you already have everything. So it's essentially telling the foundry, well, take this design, we apply a few changes to make it compatible with the new node, and we just sprint it. It just takes, say, 6 months, 12 months tops. So there's not really any redesigns, any really big improvements that happen on the hash engines themselves. So it's a lot shorter time frame, and most of this things happen behind closed doors. You don't know that L9 was coming out until a few months before it came out. So it's hard to tell exactly when development started and how they moved around. For example, the timeline between the S3 and the S7, they had the L3 and the L7, they had an L5 in between. We know nothing about the L5 except that it was not really commercially viable, so they just skipped it. So all these things, once you're a publicly traded company, you have to report them. So you have a lot of people that get expectations, and when things shift around, there's always what happened here, what happened there. So there's a lot more inquiry and a lot more transparency, which is also one of I think it's the biggest strength of publicly owned companies, which are small and are dedicated to the public, is that they're transparent even on the negative aspects.
Yeah, I mean, it's a two-edged sword, especially those very attentive clients that have followed us for a while and like, where's the bulldozer, where's the previous generation? And they don't follow us close enough to understand that it's the same ASIC, and it's communication targeted towards the capital market, not necessarily towards clients. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think in this industry, very few are as transparent as we are. So it should work in our favor long term, Ruben.
Yep.
So transition into the capital raise. I know a lot of people are excited about talking about that topic. There's we reported so many times that there's 60 to 80 million NOK required to start mass production. It's massive charges. How will you finance it? The financing gap is getting closer and closer. or do you feel like there's something else we need to talk about with regards to being proud and happy?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the financing gap is there, but there's many ways to approach it, and there's definitely, of course, I'm sure Ola will definitely know, but it's a lot of lot of different avenues that we can go to able to match it and start production.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's like there's 5 main avenues. The first one is the relatively simple one would think. You close a large enough prepaid pre-sales that you can bake the mask charges into the unit cost. You don't need to separate out that line item, and you reduce your margins, but the volume is so large that it doesn't really matter for the producer if it's A or B. We're still working on that. Still in discussions with large distributors and large miners. But I think the planning for Plan B or Plan C has intensified a little bit, even though there's no outspoken strategy being decided upon in the board. That leaves us with the 4 remaining options, right? And then there's the non-dilutive ones, which is the first one's a hybrid, where you structure a JV or a single purpose vehicle, financier, instead of buying the units, finance it with debt. The company places an order to Lokotech, and therefore we can do the plan A. Bake the mask charges into the unit cost, and that JV will mine with the units with a shared ownership. Very often typical in venture capital, those type of money in, money back first. And it all revolves around the structure of that debt ledger. The second one is to do the same, but with the mother company. You have a typical convertible note that will postpone the dilution into the future when you have a clear answer on what it was actually worth. Can be done in this case, not the main role that we're trying to make happen, but definitely on the table. And then there's the dilutive options, where you either have a private placement towards like an industrial investor, either a semiconductor investor or a blockchain cryptocurrency mining investor, or even on the far end, an AI hardware investor. That's something I think will strengthen the company going into the future. But it all comes down to the terms of that private placement. And the fourth option, which I think is worth considering, is a rights emission, where existing shareholders are given the right to partake at a certain price, and that right can be sold. And it's a fairer option perhaps than the private placement, and I think that's something that should be very much in the minds of the board if we go down an equity route, right? So, but then again, I think very often that rights emissions are most successful if you have strong financial investors already. We haven't started pre-sounding. I know a couple of the larger shareholders that would like to partake, but those are founders, so it doesn't really matter when it comes to the broader shareholding base, so to say.
Right. And but then there's also the option to like explore different areas, because what we're seeing so far is that the Nordic region is not very prone to crypto related businesses, because it's more of like the US, UAE, and Germany that are more crypto related, that they like venture capital in that aspect. So a lot of questions were why we're not exploring those avenues of other countries, and Ola will definitely tell you more about it. But of course, the people we already are exploring them as possible investors for it. It's not only Oslo and Nordic related areas that we're looking into. And also another question we've been asking, people have been asking a lot is about the US listing. What's the plan for it? Is that something we're going to do? Something we're planning already on doing? What do you think, Ola?
No, so first of all, UAE as the United Arab Emirates, very crypto-friendly center has become. And if they think we're not talking to foreigners, then they're mistaken. First of all, we are definitely talking to foreigners. I think, as you said, if you're looking for, and if you're going down the route of a private placement towards someone industrial, there's very few industrial players in Norway, so we have to go abroad. The second question is regarding the listing, right? And we have a power of attorney for listing OTC. All the documentation is ready. Everything's translated to English. Sponsor is ready. OTC Markets Group is ready, and they're obviously keen to execute. When we talk to financial advisors in the US, they're more like, well, why would you try and list OTC? It's all fun and games, but you do this small raise, and for them, it's pocket change. $8 million, that's less than what they throw at a seed round. So their advice would be, complete this, get a second batch pre-sold. We don't really potentially need the cash, but if you do need more dry gunpowder, then go straight to Nasdaq. This is a Nasdaq case. It's not an OTC case. I'm like, well, okay, I'd like to listen to that advice. But if we find a cornerstone or someone willing to go into a mining JV venture, fixed margin, they want to enter Northern Europe, want to utilize our data centers, start mining on it, and they still want liquidity, sure, OTC would probably suffice. The financial advisors they're telling us don't do it. A couple of board members have some, stories of Norwegian small cap tech firms that failed miserably in listing OTC. And my answer to them is, well, they're not in blockchain, not in AI, so it's a hot field right now. So, yeah, I think that summarizes it in a sense. Still sitting on the fence. There's no way back if we do it, so I'm ready to do it. Just a matter of doing it on a right motivation, not only
Right.
lower spread and higher liquidity. Doesn't bring us anywhere. So.
Right. It's also interesting that you bring up the mining aspect of it, especially like just mining yourselves or mining your data centers. And a lot of questions are about the script business case. Like, what does it look like? Like, is it positive? Like, if we just bought this for ourselves, would we just be making money printing the crypto ourselves and not having to rely on customers? And I think the answer is yes. If we went the just self mining route, we wouldn't have to rely on sales or anything. We still have to bridge that financing gap, but once that's done, it's essentially you're compounding everything you earn because you have a very effective miner, very efficient. So you have no competition, so you cannot be outpriced in terms of electricity costs because Norway is not the cheapest electricity price in the world, but if you go up north, you have very, very cheap electricity, you have cold, so it's perfect for mining. So self-mining is a very simple solution for avoiding the customer market altogether. But if you're starting from small, it makes more sense to get liquidity by selling to customers and then also be mining yourself to keep up your a very nice continuous profit on your balance sheet, while still having a nice image and nice customers, decentralizing the hash rate in the whole world. So I think in crude terms, that's more or less what the objective is in medium to long term, to get customers to join, to well, first close the financing gap, then get customers to join, getting the hash blades in their hands, and then self mine ourselves. So I think the business model is very, very simple in that aspect.
Yeah, it is relatively simple. A lot of moving parts, obviously, to make it work, but you have the advantage towards the customers, that's for sure. So I was trying to make this as kindergarten friendly as possible. I want to be able to draw this graph with a crayon type of approach to it. And always see if we do a minimum order, right, of wafers. Mass charge, minimum order wafers, we turn those wafers into hash blades, we start mining, and we do that in the most dilutive way. You're still in the green in terms of share price, because you keep on reinvesting that over 3 years. The EBT is more than what you've invested. It looks healthy. And that's on the minimum worst case scenario, sell zero, and we have sold already, so it can't be that bad, right? Can't be that bad. Then you transition that model into, okay, let's put some glasses on, be a bit more realistic. Toss away the crayons, start with Excel sheet instead. And you add on a bit of sales, and I've been challenged on this Sparbanken Markets, prediction that I came with. It was bit cornered into giving up a sales target number. I told them 50 to 100,000. So, okay, let's mold it out on that one, 75,000. Some of them are on our own balance sheet. Some is sold, different prices. Some assumptions go into wafer costs at volume, and it looks pretty good. The range is like 30 to 70 million US EBT over the 3 years. So it's a lucrative case. And if you start adding on the case that let's try and replace all the hash rate, the theoretical case, but we know the hash rate is there. We know machines are hashing that amount right now. So what if we, go into this winner takes it all market in force? We don't upcharge the client so much, but trying to protect our own profitability. What would that look like? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to even mention a number, but let's say this overshadows everything else, right? So I think the business case is relatively simple in terms of trying to calculate it. All the numbers are publicly available. We got better data because we got the pool data than what the available data is, but regardless, that's on a precision level more than anything. And no, I look to the future with optimism, I must say.
Right. Especially because if we have, now that we have access to everything regarding to the pool and regarding all the data, we have historicals and everything. It's not only that you can do ballpark numbers, you can get down to the specific and do very exact predictions on where crypto will be, not in terms of price, because that's a bit more chaotic, but in terms of difficulty. You can really go and do those models, see where you will be, how much ROI you'll get per blade, what's our effective cost, our production cost, everything, and we've run these numbers, and that's why it looks so good. Especially because now the models we've designed are, I don't know if, we can explain this. They're stochastic models, since mining is a random process. You gotta model them in a stochastic fashion with a drift, which is the market drift, plus all the variance on the mining itself. So you can go and make very exact estimations, and really understand what are possibilities. So you can make ranges on, well, if we are more positive, less positive, more pessimistic, and all those values on all those ranges look very good. So that's why we say that it's a very good business case, and it's even in crude terms, where you abstract all the complexity from it, it also looks very good. And when you add it back in, sometimes it looks better, because you make assumptions when you're doing a very crayon on the wall kind of mathematics. You make assumptions that are mostly pessimistic just to cover yourself. But when you go down into specific, you can remove those assumptions, go down into the technical, and really see that those assumptions maybe were too pessimistic. So in most aspects, it looks even better than when you just do crayons on the wall kind of math.
Yeah, sure. It's nice to have a mathematician on the team as well.
Yeah, happy to be here, to be honest. Very interesting space.
So there's some question about confidence, right? And it revolves around on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that you will bring the ASICs to market within the next 3 to 6 months? And it's a complex question. It's relatively easily written, but difficult to answer. And I think, first of all, what's your definition of bring to market, right? Is it having a demo unit, here you can buy it, or is it finishing the whole yield optimization curve and being in mass production? Regardless of that, 3 months is too short of a time. We won't be done in 3 months. 6 months is a lot more optimism, and I'm very confident if you add on a couple of months in the end, that it'll be in my mind at least, is bring to market, meaning that here's a physical product, how many do you want?
Exactly. It's the definition. It's a bit. Yeah.
6 is doable, 8 is safe.
Of course. I mean, if we're talking demo units, production wafers, packaged and tested by us, 6 looks okay. If on hand on customer, 8 looks perfectly okay. So it depends on how your definition of to market is, but it's regardless of which definition you take, it's still very close. So it's very different when you're 2 years away to make an approximation than when you already have a physical design that you could put in today on a chip and say, hey, here it is. You can mine it already. I mean, it wouldn't be 3 months because like it takes 3 months for the foundries to send us the chips. So even if unoptimized what we have right now, it would take 3 months for us to have it on hand. But if we're just talking like on having already a physical design that we can print, it's easier to make an approximation than if you're just finishing the design, or you're halfway through the design, or you're still on the planning phase. So right now, all the approximations that we make are a lot more confident compared to what we could do a few months ago.
Sure. And one question we received was, I'm like, okay, this is a God gift when you're trying to do a Q&A. So open, you can really answer anything, but I think we're going to try and bake it into this topic, right? The question is, what's the pipeline going ahead? And well, there's a lot in the pipeline, but let's try and keep it somewhat, at least, we're not mentioning all the details, but let's try and take the broader picture and what's going to happen from now until tape out, and then eventually launch of a pre-sale based on demo products rather than pre-sale based on technical drawings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
As you said, Ruben, we could tape out today if we wanted to, but it'd be an unoptimized design, which I think any shareholders that have been with us for a while, it's not in their interest to just cut the string, say tape out today, and let's go with it. It's a complicated process because what you have in the chip design, the commercial design, it's an RTL code, right? It's a couple of thousand hours. It's very efficient, so it's only a couple of thousands, not tens of thousands lines of code that is being translated into a graphical design, a physical design, layout if you want. And you can do that with an auto router with a press of a button and go. But we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that the graphical design is also as optimized as we can have it. So for instance, time enclosure, which is, after the router has placed this design, created a physical layout, it's done so algorithmically. But if you're adding lag to the process by missing a clock cycle because one signal is waiting for another signal, you're very quickly dropping in efficiency. Yep. So you want to make sure that the time enclosure is as short as possible. There's no delay, and you want to get the clock frequency up by tuning this clock, right? So on different clock frequencies, you'll have different times of lag. So this process can, sometimes it's just a matter of moving the physical lines a bit, but it could lead to a redo of the RTL code and then reroute of it. So it's a feedback loop going between one team specializing on physical design and one team specializing on chip architecture. So that process is ongoing, has been ongoing for a while. We have one physical design, but we want to improve it to the extent that we deliver a higher hash rate and a lower power than what we've publicly disclosed.
A happy surprise.
It's an important one. And after that feedback loop is completed and we're done, there's diminishing returns. You can't do more. It'll take longer time to get the improvements and what time it'll take to actually do them. And then you start the tape-out process. You take that design, it's a graphical design. It's like that one from the MPW, only a lot larger, right? It's 256 times as large, at least. And you take it to the producer, and they do what's called design rule checking, DRC, where they check that the physical design is producible according to their machinery, right, or production node. And there's varying degrees of errors or faults, if you want. All chips have them. Some of them are critical, push back to RTL code, need to redo it to go again. Or it's just a minor thing that we can waive. It's not your responsibility as a producer, it's our responsibility. We know it, we acknowledge it, we accept the risk. When we did this DRC in MPW, we had a record low amount of waivers. Like neither the design team nor the aggregator had seen so low waiver count. So I'm pretty confident that this DRC, seeing that it's 95% of the ship has gone through it once before, it's a repetition of something you've done before, will go smoother than what we are accounting for in our time. Hopefully, we don't know, but yeah. So DRC completed, waivers are written, signed off on, then the design is taped out. You know, it comes from the old days when you deliver a physical magnetic tape to the foundry. It's tape, right? The graphic file was the tape. So that's also partly why we want to, announce the tape-out process has started, and eventually the tape-out process has ended. It's taped out. If we're going to try and report everything in between, we would have no chance. So that's something I'd follow out for if I were a shareholder.
And then the steps afterwards is we receive the blades, package them. Well, we receive the chips, we package them, and then once they're validated through every test, they're sent out. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of questions going around, first batch size, how many chips, blah, blah, blah. It's also important to understand that the yield, meaning that amount of chips that you receive from one wafer, in the beginning it's going to be really small. And it's going to increase because the tooling needs to be calibrated. So the first 100 wafers is what we call risk wafers. We don't know if it's going to be one chip or 1,000 or 1,500 or 2,000 chips. They're all free of liability. Produce as many as you can. So getting an accurate number on the first batch in that sense is challenging. But we know that the production node is mature, so die yield of 90% after a number of wafers. So
You cut off a bit there, Ola. But yeah, it's going to be a ramp up on yield, and it'll get up to the high 80s and 90s as production starts.
Did I drop off a bit?
And yeah, but it's all right. I mean, a few words only. Don't worry, Ola. And yeah, then we also have a lot of questions regarding the latest power simulations per chip and the hash rate simulations per chip. And yeah, it's an interesting topic that a lot of people brought up. Like with our efficiency per chip, didn't drop much. The hash rate per chip did drop a bit. So people are saying, well, does that mean that you will have to include more chips per blade with a higher wattage per blade? And the answer is perhaps, depending on those last timing simulations. If we are able to squeeze a bit more efficiency and hash rate on those simulations, a significant amount of hash rate and efficiency, then that might be completely mitigated, and we will be back to specs. But the difference is it's not much. If we have to, instead of have one side of the PCB populated with chips, we have to have two sides. That will be overkill, because that would bring us our hash rate to 80% higher than the target, because it's the difference is not that much to require the full two sides. But it's still within the possibility on manufacturing, and the power consumption will not be. We still think it will be within the range of 10% that we gave on the estimations.
Yeah. So on that topic, Ruben, this power simulation is done on a fixed clock rate, as you said. I'm not gonna announce which rate, but tuning that clock frequency in the stage we are in now can only necessarily bring higher performance. There's no way it can bring poorer performance. So the final power simulations is what we are so confident in. Another topic you didn't disclose, which we haven't disclosed and we won't disclose either, is the die size, the size of the chip that stems from the wafer. And that die size has also been reduced since the latest estimations that we had back in summer of 2022. So on a cost per blade calculation, there's not that much difference, even though the power consumption might be in the upper range and the hash rate in the lower range. You're still fairly well within the earlier assumptions on gross margins and what have you. So just
and with that efficiency and cost, you still are like way ahead the competition, anyways. So it's a matter of perfectionism at this point.
Yeah. But then again, we spent 4 years so far. I spent 4 years and a month more to get it all the way to where it should be.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's also a question regarding how large is the first batch. Well, depends on how you look at it. In terms of what we have sold from Lokotech AS with a minimum order quantity of one blade, that business is now closed. We're still negotiating with larger distributors, larger miners regarding larger purchases, because we wanted at least attempt to trigger that plan A when it comes to closing the financing gap. But in terms of a minimum order of wafers that we can only order the engineering wafers, but then we're kind of stuck in a time loop again. What makes sense for us, I think, would be something that, depending on the yield that we mentioned, ends up in about 1,500 to 3,000 units. If the yield ramps quickly, you'll get more. If the yield doesn't ramp quickly, you'll get less. But that's what we were talking about in terms of first order of wafers.
Another really interesting topic that people bring up is what is the size of the self-mining on the first batch?
So if that's a minimum order, right, then what we don't sell, that would be what we could self-mine with. Some of them are for Q&A, RMA. If there's any issues with clients' blades, we'll replace them, have them fresh out of the box, but minuscule compared to what we can put online. And if we're binning the ASICs, we can also put the ASICs that are halfway there, produce a hash base that doesn't meet the specification, but it doesn't matter because we run them ourselves. We don't waste silicon purely because the end product isn't as promised.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, then after this we start batch 2, which also includes a few nice new products, which are more of the conventional mining standards instead of just hash blades. For example, the single tube and double tube. which are the L3 and L7 equivalents of size in terms of how they look, but they perform a lot better, of course, because it's a lot higher efficiency. So, for example, an L3 equivalent, which we're calling the single tube miner, I think it's called ST1 in our inner talks. It's gonna be a 8 gigahash machine at about 800 watts or less, and the double tube is gonna be a 16 gigahash machine at 160 watt, 1,600 watts, so or less. So those two additional products are gonna be part of the batch two. So we're already in talks with extrusion mold for aluminum for the body of them themselves. They're going to have the same firmware and controller as the full stacks or the rack stacks that they're going to be delivering in batch one. So it will all be the same like kind of ecosystem where you have the full stacks which are meant for, or the rack stacks which are meant for the servers spaces. Then you have the single and double tubes which are meant for the you could say industrial specifications. So for example, the size and the immersion cooling and all those. And then you have the hash blades, which are just meant for home miners or gaming PCs or GPU retrofitting for all GPU rigs.
Yeah, you used to be an old GPU miner, didn't you, Ruben?
Yeah, I used to make them. I used to make the bodies for them, the rigs, and
Yeah.
sell them to people here in Spain. It was nice. It wasn't much volume, but I have friends here that wanted to get in and they didn't know how to build their own computer. So I would help them. I would advise them. So it's interesting to see the refreshment of the GPU mining era towards script, which is something no one's really achieved or ever even tried to achieve. So it's really nice to be part of the pioneering team in it.
Yeah, that's why we opted in for a PCIe form factor in the get go. But I think it's important for the listeners to understand that it's more or less the same product, just packed in a different manner, different price point, different hash rate, same efficiency if you don't count the support components and fans and what have you. So in the end, it's a lot of the same.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we're testing different OEM manufacturers of casings and support components for the rack stack. So, well, what is it really? It's 24 blades put in a standardized rack mountable server. So it's a matter of finding the right supplier with the right capability and volume, and that will support, Linux, Windows, or mining specialized Linux distros like HiveOS and what have you. And
Yep.
what Ruben is, I think, a pretty vital part in is encompassing that into a single ecosystem where you have one software that will support any number of hash plates, that will talk to the smart PSU, that can also talk directly to the pool and the fleet management software, so that you're tying the client into this one ecosystem that they thrive in, rather than try and make things work with like some halfway graphical user interface and some little bit of a hack to make it work.
Exactly. Like for example, like HiveOS, like the way they detect miners on their system is that they ping every possible IP in the local network. So you have to specify the local network. We're taking a different approach of having it work the other way. You can have on our fleet management system where we're just gonna integrate it the other way around. You have the machines ping the fleet system so that you have a better system. Instead of having to go downstream, you go upstream for the whole information flow. So the same thing for pools. Pools don't detect miners. Miners talk to pools, and then pools respond in accordance most of the times. So it's just a better the architecture we're designing for this whole ecosystem. It's more streamlined for less hassle. So it will be simpler and easier to manage on the whole network, from the miners to the pool.
Yeah, I think that's especially important if you're re-recruiting or recruiting new home miners into the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Because the the miners that you're recruiting now, they're used to macOS. They're used to having things solved for them, not writing terminal code in order to make things work, right? So
Exactly.
important part, but yeah. And will you be able to let them navigate it via the pool software?
Like you mean the control the miners and everything from the pool?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not out of the question. NICE has had a similar thing when they had the OS, the NICE OS for GPUs, and now they're doing a similar thing for ASICs. But it's their own OS. It's not. It's interesting how they approached it, but it's definitely challenging, but and hard to apply on the whole system. But if you're only, you could theoretically control just Lokotech or protocol specific miners from pools, and the objective was to make the API system for our whole firmware open for that specific thing in mind. You can have additional extensions to the Stratum protocol, which we will also be adding into those specifications at some point, to be able to have pool access to the miners as well if it's necessary or if it's enabled. So you can add additional features on top of it since we control the full firmware on the machines themselves. So you can have, for example, our specification can be public, so pools can talk and specify additional stuff to the miners to make it more optimized and to be more effective. It's not something that's currently developed in the current market, but it's something that now that we have we control A to Z on we have not really control, we have knowledge from A to Z. For example, I know the pools side and the connection side. Then we have the firmware side, which there's the whole Lokotech team works on, and we have the hardware side, which is our whole hardware design team. So if we have all the A to Z knowledge, then we can develop solutions that are more optimized instead of just understanding the A or the Z. So that's why the synergies here are very important.
On the topic of Powerpool, unless somebody has any questions and answer right now, I think we should transition into that.
Sure.
I'll give Abide a couple of seconds to respond if.
Yeah, you have one question. I got it from Fredrik Lingos.
Right. Hi, Fredrik.
I can read it out loud here. I appreciate the diligence and perfectionism in optimizing the chip. Could you give an estimation of when we can expect the start of tape out? Are we talking about a delay of 4 to 5 weeks? Or will it start this side of Christmas?
So we had this incident with our chief architect, right? So so if you're gonna draw a skyscraper, right, you can have 1,000 architects drawings, but you need someone to oversee the whole thing. That's his role. He's a brilliant guy. Very unfortunate this accident, and giving a precise estimate on how much that had influenced him was difficult. That's why we went with 5 to 7 weeks. A couple of those weeks it was drifting, and then you add in vacations, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So for us, there's no immediate reason to rush it the week before Christmas because there's no one to play the ball back to us again. So I'm hoping that we can do it a good time before Christmas. I think that very early New Year's is more. I'm a lot more confident if we can bring it 1 week into January, but we're still within that time frame, right? Mid-December, early Jan. Does it really matter? Not in my opinion. Obviously, everything that's done is I'm more happy with things that's done. But I think rushing it into Christmas vacation is also not a good idea now that we can freely pick and choose our own tape out date. So the tape out process I believe will start internally, but I think the first approach to global will happen right after New Year's. That's my personal take on it. And then there's also the fact that the DRC period is a huge. I'm overestimating now, but it's somewhat of an X because it can take anywhere between 1 week till multiple months, right? I'm pretty confident it won't take multiple months. We've done it before, more or less the same design. It took less than a month. If the waivers or the rules haven't changed for some reason, something we haven't caught, then I expect the DRC process to take shorter amount of time than what we are planning for. So the overall time to tape out is difficult to state. Time when tape out will start is easier to state. So yeah, in my mind, we're last 2 weeks of December, first week of January.
Great, thank you. No more questions from me.
All right.
It's a Powerpool. Now
To
we are,
Powerpool. All right.
yeah, we're blessed with a founder and CEO. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. We did receive a few questions on long-term plans and how everything's going. Like, what's the competitive landscape like, and how's the product mix, profitability, potential threats going into the future. And I think it's better to break it down into because that's a big question. Let's start on like the long-term plans, and I'm also gonna add short-term plans onto it. Long-term plans is Powerpool right now has only been software. So it's been just pooling software added to some blockchain developments on optimization and everything. So there's R&D on that side, but it's mostly pool software. So the objective is to diversify a bit more and also bring in the hardware side. So we're exploring on-site solutions for proxies and fleet management software that would be installed on-premise for hosting facilities and all that. So there's like a whole avenue that's going on long term. That it's I think we've done some market testing and some exploring around different hosting farms and self-mining farms that are looking into joining Powerpool. And they will also pitch this as a possible LLM in the future, and they were super excited about it. They really liked our philosophy of optimizing, and the objective is to optimize also on the sites that we operate in. So that's one of the long-term projects that we're looking into. Short term, it's we're looking to get some certifications to be able to work with some bigger players in the industry that require some certifications for pools. Currently, there's almost none of the pools in the world that have them. Foundry is the only US one that has them. So we're looking to be similar to that and be able to compete with them in the enterprise level, especially because what we're saying is that SHA-256 is very industrial based. There's not many home miners. It's rare that you see a guy with a 20 or 30 hosted S19s. You mostly have a very big enterprises that have many petahashes of hash rate that require a lot of first. They're very doubtful of people, so it requires an end to them, and then they're very cautionary, and they really want to avoid new players because they stick to the old guys even if they're losing money by doing so. We've talked to a lot of them that are on F2 pool and AND pool, and what we tell them is that if you just switch, you make 3% more. So they are starting to test them out with a few machines because they really move slowly when you're that big. So having those certifications really helps start the process a little bit faster and everything. We also have some new agents which are moving around in the US and Asia, which are bringing us newer clients. It's hard to put an estimate on how effective that will be, but if people have been tracking the hash rate for SHA-256 in the past month, we've increased 40% in size. It's 40%, I think. Yeah, 40% in size just from this agents alone. So even if they deliver a percentage of what they promise, they will be very significant in the development as the future comes in. And yeah, that's pretty much the plays on short and long term. Then, like competitive landscape, it's like I said, we're seeing that the big pools attract big players, and not because they're better, but because they're bigger, and that's always been the thing in crypto. Like what we saw a thing was it was a long time ago, so I may get this wrong. I'm not gonna get specifics. There was a pool that got 51%, not because they were better than the competition, because they actually started offering worse conditions just to try and persuade people to go to other pools, just because they were bigger. So they were the big names, so a lot of people just flocked onto them because they were big, and that's what we're seeing in the SHA-256 industry. It's hard to get decentralization when a few players control a very big portion of hash rate, and all the players that have the miners are very cautious and try to stay with what other people do. So it's kind of like a fight between what should be there and what's actually there in the Bitcoin mining. But yeah, it's these efforts are trying to like disrupt this kind of standard currently. Then the product mix, we got the different algorithms. Although we in talks with a few farms that would like to add a few algorithms in. Equihash is one of them, so that's one thing we're trying to keep an eye on, as well as ETC hash, and also the new miner that's been developed by
Ethereum Classic, just for the viewers that's not that into it. Ethereum Classic is ETC hash.
yeah, ETC, yeah. Ethereum Classic. So before ETH went to POS, ETC didn't. So ETC is the only one that's big enough to be mined with I don't think GPUs are mining it anymore, at least not at scale. Now there's ASICs already for it, so it's the one algorithm that it's we really want to target, because I think it's very very interesting, the move that they did to on ETC ETH, so ETH, and against Ethereum Classic. So that's just one of them. And then there's the new Blake 3S miner by Bitmain, which could be very very positive to be added as well, because it's also an ASIC, and it's and we want to be able to have every kind of user to connect to the system, not just the big guys. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a farm with many miners, you want to have them all in the same place and not have them scattered around in different pools. So it helps you on your accounting and your taxes and everything.
We'll bring it back to the main topic, product mix. First launch will be Blake or ETC?
I think the first one will be ETC, and then
ETC?
it's going to be Blake. Yeah. And Equihash, it's kind of a floating player. Exactly, depends on how everything else develops. But yeah, those are the
where the algorithm Equihash, because it has the primarily larger miners, very few home miners, but they're not that large.
Exactly, so it's not such a big volume market.
No, but you know, if the one client you're talking about, if he jumps on and wants Equihash, you know, what's the development time for supporting that?
It's 1 month, 1 month and a half tops. It's a fairly quick turnaround in terms of software, especially the way Powerpool's designed is. It was originally designed to have only one algorithm with script at the start, but then I turned around and said, why am I doing it just for script? It makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time. So I did a whole redesign. So that's why all algorithms now are super easy to implement. So it's like the whole stack is very flexible in that aspect.
Right, and as you know, I've insisted at this, but we've talked about this a little bit back and forth. That is additional features, like, you know, diversifying Powerpool by having more features than competition. Very little development and investment to get something that, you know, diversifies you. The reporting, I think, is important, because I remember back when we were mining, scattering across all the different exchanges, all the different pools, get all the data. One pool went down, so we don't have the data anymore, and you're trying to recreate the data to have a accurate accounting, right? And I can only imagine the hell on earth if you're a private individual mining and you're going to at least trying to tax it correctly, to have all the data in one spot, right?
Yeah.
So that's where one feature came, and I'm sure we'll find more features like that.
Yeah, the reporting feature of Powerpool is, I think it's super useful for big players, especially because if you're trying to make as much money as possible when you're mining, you don't only mine Litecoin or Dogecoin or Bells. You mine a lot of other coins if you want to optimize it. And if you have maybe tens of coins that you're mining, even in just one algorithm, even excluding all the Bitcoin and everything, just talking script right now. If you have 10 coins, you have to track the prices for when they were mined, all the differences of prices that happened over the day that you were mining, that you're switching off on and on where you're mining at that time. Even all that accounting, it's nearly impossible for if you want to tax it correctly, because you cannot take the average price because you were not mining for the whole day on the one coin. You were mining many coins on that day, so it makes it impossible. So having Powerpool have the automatic revenue reporting monthly, that it's auditable, that you can actually like use as your as proof that it's not been modified because you have a cryptographic signature in there, and have it all in one unique single source of information. It helps a lot for when you have to do taxes. Plus,
That
if you only have to hold one coin in your balance sheet, because you can have auto conversion, so you can just receive Bitcoin, keep it simple, and have and we convert everything on our end, and you don't have to worry about all the tax implications of having mined all the other different coins. So it makes it a lot simpler.
and if you add in a bit of trading on top,
Yeah,
maybe things even more complex. And for the
exactly.
next question, I'm going to read it. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do something a bit unorthodox. I'm going to leave the room because I don't want Ruben to feel like he's censored by sitting together with me. Okay, so the question is, Ruben, can you talk us through why you decided to partner up with Lokotech, and what are your personal thoughts for the future prospect of the company, and regards to the ASIC and pool mining operation and any other vertical business areas? I'm
Okay.
going to get the answer. I'm mute. Exit the room. And,
All right. Well, this is kind of putting me on the spotlight, but sure. All right. All right. It's joining forces with Lokotech. It was not an easy decision because there was a lot of things involved. But I think it's a good way to explain it, I guess, would be perhaps go to the start. I first learned about Lokotech when they were in Vegas. I watched the conference. I don't know if it was live or like a few minutes after they were live, because it was posted on Reddit, and that was where I was doing most of the pool marketing at that time. So I looked it up and I listened to the whole presentation, and they said they wanted to build a pool and they were doing an amazing new efficient miner. So I was immediately intrigued, especially because it looked like GPUs, and I was originally, like I said, I used to build GPU rigs for people. So I thought, well, what if I turn this also a business into making their systems into like what they right now have the full stack. So I thought, well, maybe I could make them for them and have be a reseller here in Europe, because the pool was based in Spain, so there was already all the paperwork established to be able to be part of crypto and act in a responsible way and a taxable way here in Spain. So it was a simpler pivot or like additional feature that could be added in. So I thought, oh, let's see what would happen. I never really talked to them. I didn't even reach out. Just in the back of my mind, because I was doing so many things at the time, so I couldn't really spend a lot of time thinking about it. And then out of the blue, I received an email from them that they wanted to talk about the product, and they were looking for some pool or some guy that was related to pools that could help them develop their software that would connect the ASIC to the pool. So I said, I'm game. I mean, it really happened over a few months that I was a little light on work, so I thought I got time, and plus I'll get to learn the industry better. And they really walked me through everything they were doing, and that's why I really understood how complex building an ASIC is. I actually I investigated a bit like before, just when I saw Bitmain, I thought, I can do better than them. So I looked into it. I knew it was complex. I didn't have much time, so I said, I'll push it back. But then Lokotech came in and they really explained how everything works, and everything looked so complex that it even exceeded expectations of complexes that I had. But it really opened my eyes to what the work they were doing. I was really excited with working for them. It was just for like helping them out on developing this pool connection system, and especially because they said, well, let's test it out on your pool, and you can also get a benefit of people learning about it. So I was like, I'm game. Let's do it. And then from there, I pitched to them, see if we could join forces also on the pool aspect, because they on the presentation they said they were working on a script pool. So they said, all right, let's see if we can join forces here. And after a bit of talk back and forth, we decided to join forces completely, and they joined in the as a joint venture with me or in the pool aspect. So that's how everything came to be. And All is back, I see. That's how everything came to be, and it was so far it's been great. Growth's been exponential, and really Lokotech's opened a lot of doors for me, in not only in contacts but also in learning how things work. Because if you just know the pool aspect of it, you know a small percentage of it. If you just know when you plug and play a GPU, you also know a small aspect of it. Now that I can see the A to Z really infrastructure and stack of everything that goes into it, it's super interesting because it really opens your eyes to everything. And it's and collaborations are limitless once you can have access to the hardware as well as the software as well as the cloud. So you can really tab a little bit on everything, try and improve everything, because the trivial solution is usually not the best solution. There's Occam's razor. It dictates that it should be, but once you get deep into the weeds, it never is. It usually is so twisted and so weird that it even dumbfounds anyone that tries to like actually go for it. But it really is a very interesting space to be in, and so many aspects that can be explored. So that's why I joined forces with them, because I thought it would be both mutually beneficial, and so far it has been, and it's been amazing so far. That's pretty much it.
Okay, tune in there. You looked finished.
That's all right. Did you hear any of it, or did you actually walk out?
No, nothing.
That's awesome.
Okay,
And yeah,
I hope
that's it.
is that right, Abide, or am I in big trouble now?
No, it's correct.
If you said it again.
No, I was just asking Abide for his third-party opinion, if it was okay, or if I'm was in deep trouble.
And yeah, it pretty much concludes the Powerpool like parentheses on this pretty much. But we do have other questions on the other business verticals of Lokotech, because
Sure, but
Powerpool is.
I thought it'd be a good idea to see if Abide had any live questions coming regarding
Sure.
Powerpool.
No. Currently, I haven't received any questions, and I encourage the visitors or the viewers to send in questions either through the email you can see on the screen, or in the comment section on Facebook or YouTube. And if you're watching this this presentation through Finansavisen and the Quarter, you can send me questions through os@investorweb.no.
All right, so quick repetition of that one. So we have a couple of questions regarding ASIC Exchange specifically. I wanted to cover those before we move into a short commercial update on all the other verticals that we are operating in. I trust that Ruben gave you a pretty good and clear view of Powerpool. So ASIC Exchange, the questions are usually regarding, okay, that's a small order, will you order more, or how can that corporation add business in other verticals, and he has 36 megawatts and blah blah blah, different topics. First of all, ASIC Exchange is a medium-sized distributor, right, of hardware. That's their main business. They also have a data center business, 36 megawatts across the whole globe. And they also broker data centers and data center deals. So quite a global footprint. I like them a lot because it's so short to the decision maker. Vlad and his partners are approachable and very, very well known in the industry for being able to deliver. I mean, the places in the world he's delivered miners, I mean, you wouldn't be able to pronounce them again, even. And it's so rural that you're not trucking them there. Just let's just say it's a helicopter or it's a llama ride. Basically, a donkey even could work, right? So very interesting guys. So what other levels are we, or can we cooperate on? Well, first of all, they are involved in the Filecoin business. They provided free hardware for us testing the seeding infrastructure. So there's a revenue share agreement there, and we might add on more business there, especially if the mining of Filecoin turns around to the better. And there's obviously also some synergies with Powerpool. I'm not going to talk specifically on his operations. It's like, as we say in Norway, asking a Same how many reindeer you got. That's basically what you're asking a miner, how many machines do you got in which algorithm, right? So what I do know is that he's spread across multiple algorithms. Some of them we don't support in Powerpool. Some of them is very natural that we start transitioning his hash rate into Powerpool. Some places are so remote that he doesn't even go there. There's no remote capabilities. So we can't do anything without flying out to Patagonia in the middle of nowhere, right? To try and change something. So some of it is off the table. But for us, I think it's most important that he gets comfortable with the VIP referral agency deal that Powerpool has, so that he can bake that business into his ASIC trading business. So that the volume of ASICs currently run rate 3,000 units of S21 equivalents a month, to improve his client relationships as well. So I don't know if Ruben mentioned it, but there's a possibility to white label Powerpool, so to make make distributors able to offer that service that we offer in their own brand. That's something that we need to discuss with him. And yeah, he placed a small order, but it was the smallest order that we would allow that type of key account management to do. So he's turning around, selling this to his clients, and I'm sure that if his sales effort works out, he'll up the order. So remains a bit to be seen on the other verticals. Filecoin in and of itself today isn't that promising. Not our problem or not our reason or fault. It's just economics behind Filecoin right now isn't very good. But if he, for some reason, suddenly comes over a batch of hardware that he wants to use, he has got nowhere else to send them than to us, so we can increase that revenue share a bit. So yeah, we're working on multiple fronts, which transitions us into the other verticals, Filecoin. And I'm happy that you've partaken in that project more and more, Ruben. I think some of the headaches that the current team. But in the very end of the development project, Filecoin decided to switch frameworks, right, from Lotus to Cura. And you're all set now. It's full speed.
Yeah, it's been an interesting transition, especially because it's going to be a better software. The framework is a lot more robust and better suited for our operations, especially because we want to do sealing as a service. So it's a lot better in that aspect because it's a lot simpler to do sealing as a service with that all those the new framework. But they're still ongoing. So there's a lot of back and forth with the developers to try and fix a bug we have discovered and help them out, because at the end of the day, the project is about making our operations better, but also helping the ecosystem as a whole. Because if we make the ecosystem better, price will follow. And the tech of Filecoin is very, very interesting. The cost per storage is a lot better than what Amazon or any other company can offer. So it really is a very interesting piece of tech, especially for distributed storage solutions, because there are not many in the world. So it's a very interesting use case for the hard drives as well, because the hard drives are essentially static machines. Well, they're rotating, but they're not really active in the aspect of like same as a CPU is, because you can make it do stuff. So, but data stored in a hard drive doesn't do anything. So it's a really interesting approach to mining. So I think it's the tech's amazing. It's super smart behind it, but it is that if we help the community enough, the price will catch up, so they can also look better for us as well. So we try and bring in a better system and as a whole. But yeah, Courier's running smooth. We've just integrated the latest software version, which will theoretically, as soon as we can get it up, which is going to be the next week, to test out the new performance. It should give us 2x the performance that we have right now. So it's very, very good in terms of improvement. And yeah, everything's integrated and it's running smoothly. All monitoring's up again, because once you switch from one framework to another one, you have to rewrite the whole supporting components from them. So we had to rewrite the whole monitoring system. We had to rewrite the whole uptime monitoring, the whole like schedulers and pricing as well. So everything had to move around a bit. But now everything's up and running.
Yeah. So taking on my strategic long-term hat, I'm very happy that the Curio increases our efficiency, but the offside is that it increases others' efficiency as well.
Yeah.
So that being said, the cluster is live. It's mining as it stands. There's storage going on. It's in Breivik, the Hall of the Mountain King. We have plenty of nicknames for that place internally. Mines of Moria is one of them. Regardless, so in combination of the technical development wrapping up, I'm expecting a report on the two different use cases: sealing as a service, where we think we have an edge. We used to have an edge. Hopefully, Cure didn't remove that edge.
We still have the edge.
Okay, thank you. And there's storage providing or mining Filecoin as you might like. I think it's a nice mix into the whole Breivik data center location. Not very power dense, but right now the economics are unfavorable for Filecoin miners. Could change in a heartbeat, and we're very investable if that happens. We have the space, we have the sealing architecture, we have the manpower to man it. So I think if economics turns around, and something we need to pay more attention to, and perhaps seek some external financing of, because as you said, it's a very interesting technology when it comes to distributed storage. So if there's any faith in that concept of distributed storage in the future, Filecoin is the way to go, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us over to other verticals. VIC, the messaging, or it's wrong to call it a messaging app, it's an encryption app. The bold critics are calling it a OpenSSL wrapper. Well, it's not. It's compatible with OpenSSL, but it hopefully will be compatible with other frameworks as PGP, pretty good privacy, and other encryption software. But it's about giving the consumer the power to encrypt themselves and not be dependent on any third party. For various reasons, like the EU legislation now up for discussion, where every messaging application needs to have a backup sent to the EU. It's a crazy future that we live in if that will be the case. But even so, some of the messaging applications are exploited, vulnerable. So this now, you put the tool in the right hands, and we can decide to use it or not. On that topic, the first field testers, frontline in Ukraine, and journalists doing journalism in the US have given their feedback for some requested features and some pricing feedback. So we are relatively close to have a version 1.1 launch, different pricing, and in that regards, we also started to prod how we can put some paid marketing behind it. So lower price, higher adoption rate, some paid marketing. That's the status quo today.
Mm-hmm. Then we also have the data center vertical.
Yeah. slow-moving field, real estate development, compared to this tech world. But in Kautokeino, we have received a quote for the 2 megawatt installation. We are exploring a 5 megawatt option. So we're meeting Statnett, this week, working closely with the grid company to explore that opportunity, since the battery factory never became. So we could pull the trigger on 2 megawatts. Could be a bit too small in order to attract a foreign tenant or a foreign JV partner. 5 megawatts is within what they can consider enough to establish themselves there. But one important part of Kautokeino is that it's levied from electricity duty. So it's about 1.6 cents cheaper than any municipality where you don't have that levy. And if you're talking renewable energy Europe, Northern Norway or NO4 area is the cheapest. And if you can levy the duty as well, then you're pretty competitive in terms of power pricing. So I have some good hopes for the future. Unfortunately, the local grid co it's taken some time, and it's a time intensive process to get all the way to goal. But as soon as it's investable, I think we should see some action in Kautokeino. Bergvik, we're about to power the first container. You buy that type of a property that's been run down and not taken care of for 7 years, up to 9 years, then you don't really know exactly what needs to be done when. And we're bootstrapping this and doing it as cheap as possible, right? So we can't just pay ourselves out of any issues. So the one cable that has been cut, a little pickle, because it had probably a sensor on it. So in order to remove the equipment, they had to cut the cable. So that needs to be replaced. But other than that, I'm pretty certain that within 14 days we should have a fully furnished container ready to lease out, racks installed and everything. So then it's just a matter of attracting clients to more traditional data center usage. It's operating the Filecoin cluster today and has a lot of capacity on that front as well. But I think the site really needs a more traditional data center business model to really yield. So that's Breivik. In Øksnes, there's some discussions regarding installing a 420 kilovolt line. That's a massive improvement to the project if that happens. In the meantime, they're finishing the detailed regulation, and we are in continuous discussion with the grid company regarding the amount of capacity we can pull from there. So this Øksnes Halden is a bit disappointing. Extremely cheap brownfield area. Long term, I have no issues with it, with my background from real estate development, but it was a lot more pricey to get enterprise scale installation there than what we first would have thought, seeing that the troubles are in the building. So we can move pretty quickly on sub 2 megawatts, but if you're doing 20, 50 megawatts size, that will take a bit of both time and money. And in that sense, Kautokeino is more attractive for the end client, so quickly moves to Kautokeino for at least mining purposes. But then again, Halden can probably be sold, can probably be just held until they eventually go forward with a redevelopment of housing projects there. So a little bit of an unknown when it comes to Halden, but I think the other projects are developing pretty well.
Yep.
And yeah,
That's pretty much it.
pretty much it. At least the verticals that we've announced.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions that have come up through
No
email?
questions live.
All right.
All right. Any
So,
questions, Ruben?
I think I'm pretty up to date on everything, so I think I know pretty much all the answers that I might have questions for. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a thing we're gonna see a lot of speed up in everything that's gonna happen on the chip as in the coming months, especially because there's gonna be a lot of things to be done. But it's I think it's looking very bright in this coming half of the next year, and it's going to be a very interesting time to be part of Lokotech. Not only
Did,
from a from an employer perspective, because that's me, but also from like the financial aspects. That's going to be very good.
um, did you know, dig into what type of growth those agents would, potentially bring in terms of numbers, or do you don't want to dare to?
I think it's not really responsible to say the values they quoted to me,
No, of
because
course not.
if that's
No.
the true, it'd be amazing, but I mean, I try to be more conservative on expectations. So I think we can even if what they've done so far, which has only been a few weeks worth of work, they've increased the hash rate, like I said, 40% on the Shadow F6 space. If they keep at this rate, we can see very 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 good numbers very soon. And I mean, like we said, we're already very cash positive. Like Powerpool works fine. We're never in the red, always in the green. So even if they increase the hash rate, it'll only get better. So it's not a scaling issue. It's not a we fear that if too many people come in, we'll have a problem. It's quite the opposite. We're willing for more people to come in because we know it'll be even better when they do. So there's no really any roadblocks or anything that could become negative from them joining the team. And if they're not as effective as they say they are, since they are all deals are commission based, it's not really any downside to us. It's just there'll be less money less people coming in, not any extra money coming out of us. So it's really positive deals. There's only upside for anything that comes out of it. So and they've proven themselves as being effective. So I think it's really good for the future. I will not dare to say the numbers they quoted me, but it's really positive for the future.
But would you say that it's would it be irresponsible to try and claim, exahashes within half a year?
If yeah, it shouldn't be that's one of the aims is to reach that target within the near future. I think half a year is near enough to be considered like that. So yeah, I think half a year it's doable for this for the growth we're seeing so far. So if they deliver on what they promise, that's gonna be no issue hitting the 1 exahash range.
I really hope that the Chinese agent that I introduced you to and that we have some history with and back and forth, it comes through on this one because yeah, it's been a long-term Chinese distributor and knows all the clients, and it's a very difficult market culturally and language-wise to enter.
Of
I
course, yeah.
I don't know how successful it would be to have a Chinese version of Powerpool, but something that we should think about actually.
I speak a lot of languages. Chinese is not one of them, so I'll need someone to help me out with that. But yeah,
Yeah, but translation software. All right.
yeah, perfect.
I think that's it. Though, but we don't have anything else that we've received.
Yeah, perfect. I think was a really great session. With usually we have question and answer, but I think this was a great session because you got a really nice dialogue. So thank you guys for showing up today, and thank you to the viewers. We will see you next time. Do you guys have something else to add?
Well,
Last thing.
thank you for having us. I think this platform is really a good way to get people to access information straight from the source. And I think this format's really been good, especially for a crypto space, since it's good to be able to answer questions freely and in a more controlled manner. And still, people can bring in, ask, and we can answer. It's no problem. So thank you for having us.
Perfect. And guys, you will be able to watch this presentation as a recording on Lokotech's IR page at lokotechgroup.com, I guess.
Lokotechgroup.com, yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be able to see the recording in there too. And you are also encouraged to ask questions through their IR page on lokotechgroup.com, and hopefully Ola will answer them on ongoing basis. Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
Every Wednesday I try to clear out if there's any.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, guys.
Thank you for hosting us.
Bye.
See you next time.
Cheers.